Damn, I was in that shit, man. I never had no dope like that before in my life, man. That's the heaviest shit I ever smoked, man. I mean, I smoked a lot of shit before, man. But goddamn, man, that's heavy shit. They tried to make me go to rehab. I said no, no, no.
129 people die every day in this country from a drug overdose.
Host Holly and various guests discuss the important topics about addiction and recovery. They are not quote-unquote experts, but just real people telling real stories. Any or no addictions are welcome. Recovery Talk starts now.
Welcome to Recovery Talk. Today our guest we have is Amy, who grew up in Beverly Hills. She had it all, from a top-notch private school education to the most expensive summer camps. Amy is a former professional stand-up comic, having appeared at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, and the Improv. Since 2012, she has been a contributing editor of the online addiction and recovery magazine, thefix.com. She's also written for the Good Men Project, The Frisky, Refinery 29, and has been a regular contributor to addiction.com and psychologytoday.com, where she has her own addiction blog entitled Coming Clean. My Fair Junkie is her memoir.
How are you?
So happy. Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I'm so happy you're on the show, and thank you so much for sending me a copy of your book.
Oh, you're welcome.
I honestly could not put it down when I started reading it.
That's what everyone says. I guess it moves pretty quickly. I don't know. I mean, I try. I get bored easily, so I wanted it to keep moving for people,
yeah,
but I did try and...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I also tried, I know parts of it get really heavy, so I also tried to, create places where there was, some levity and humor and a rest, so people weren't just oh my God, just because I know it's, those periods that are really dark, so it was, sort of a balancing act. But I'm glad you loved it.
Yeah, I could relate to the insanity, and I think your humor kind of just, makes things a little more, I don't know, I can just relate to it. Doesn't like you said, it doesn't make it so dark.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think humor in recovery is so important. It was just really a big tool for me to get through a lot of those times where I was if I don't find a way to make this funny and laugh at this, it's going to kill me,
Yeah.
And it's I think that sometimes, talk about recovery gets really heavy and preachy, and it's we're, people who like to have fun. So it's you got to have fun. And for me, humor has always been a really big coping tool, not just because I was a stand-up comic for 5 years, but I think it's important. I just really think it's important in life not to take yourself too seriously.
Exactly, and that's what I tell myself. Don't take it so serious and just have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah, not that addiction's not serious. Of course it is. People are dying. I'm not saying that at all. Do you know what I mean? But it's but I just think the last thing we needed was another preachy memoir, kill me. You know what I mean? How about something, how about something that's, where we can laugh at ourselves? Because I think that that's a really good way to sort of ward off shame. If you can laugh at it, then it's not as shameful.
Exactly. So how did your crazy journey start?
Oh my God.
You're read the book.
Yeah. Well, I was really afraid of sort of drugs and alcohol growing up. As a teenager in high school, I was a late bloomer. I make this joke that it was true. My father said, "Hey, I bet you'll drink or smoke or do drugs before you're 18." And I said, "I bet I won't." And he said, "I'll bet you $1,000." And I joked that that's how Jews raise each other. We just bribe each other. And it worked, I mean, I waited till I was 19 to drink. And I was in college, and I drank. And my drinking kind of looked like everyone else's. Everyone else was falling down, throwing up, and blacking out. It's college. Where things really got weird for me was when I picked up crystal meth in my 20s, around 24. I was in San Francisco, and I was just I'm young and experimenting, and, and it just got its claws in me right away. Like no other drug had. And like I never was really in a pot or anything like that. And drinking made me really out of control. It just made me, I didn't like the fact that I'd black out, and I didn't feel. I had no idea what I would do when I drank, and that freaked me out. And plus, I'm depressive, so I like the uppers. Trying to balance out some depressive tendencies. So I liked coke and meth, and meth was sort of like the thing that first hooked me, and then it just was like a 20-year struggle with different drugs and in and out of rehabs and psych wards, and from there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different approaches to treatment and recovery. What works for you?
What works for me now is 12-step. That's. I tried. I really resisted it for a really long time because I didn't like it and it creeped me out. And but I tried every other way to get sober, and none of them really stuck. I did have 7 years without program, but I was my life was very small, and I was quite depressed, and so I wasn't really growing. I needed tools. I really needed tools, and I was a way to sort of navigate through life, and I needed like a moral compass. I needed a community. I was lonely. I needed to feel connected to other people, and other people who are crazy in the way that I was crazy, and so that's, I bash it a little bit in my book, but I mostly bash the fellowship. I don't really bash the program because, of course, when you take a bunch of, alcoholics and put them in a room, crazy stuff happens,
Exactly.
Sexual predatory stuff. People pick up, people are, some are sicker than others, and people pick up the next thing, whether it's nicotine or gambling or sex or food or whatever. And it's just like, it's a microcosm of the real world, but even worse because it's sort of like, really like people at their most broken. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah.
I think that wherever, and there's that weird social hierarchy that kind of happens in the rooms. And so I sort of bust all of that. I don't play into that. I write pieces, busting that. And, I think the tools are amazing, but of course the fellowship is, there are great people and there are jerks, just like the real world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm a part of too, is the 12-step fellowship, because I've tried every way, religion, methadone clinics, none of that stuff worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I did
whatever
shaman.
Works.
Yeah, I did exorcisms. I did all kinds of alternative therapies. I did, psych meds. I did everything because I didn't want to do AA. I'm out with it. I don't really believe in anonymity. I think that we need to all recover out loud. And I think that for me, one of the reasons that kept me away from the rooms for so long was because of the weird secrecy around it. I was like, it's a Christian cult, and it's like, I think that we need to, now with celebrity rehab and that kind of stuff, it's like, that was in the 30s. It's like, when you say you're in a 12-step program, people kind of know what you're talking about. It's not.
Yeah, they do.
You know what I mean? It's not a secret. They're like, oh, well, they're probably in AA or NA. It's like, but just say it. I don't know. I think it's strange when, people are like, well, if you relapse, it looks like AA doesn't work. It's like, I think relapse is a part of every disease. It's like if you have cancer and you do chemo and you still die, does that mean chemo doesn't work? No. And that's only one. It's only one way to get sober. There are a zillion ways to get sober. There's refuge recovery and smart recovery, and some people get sober through running. Some people get sober, they just put it down. Like everyone's experience is completely different, and I absolutely respect that. I'm no fundamentalist.
Yeah, it's whatever works for that person.
Yeah, we're all trying to get to the same place. Like, so however you get there, great.
Yep. Yeah, I think addicts are usually the most sensitive people, who get a bad rap from society, that the view about addiction isn't a disease, but more of a moral failing. What are your thoughts on this?
I just think that that's ridiculous, and I think it's sad. And I actually 5150'd a friend of mine who had relapsed after almost a decade and was living in his car. And the nurse there, who actually ended up telling us that she was in recovery, said that even the medical professionals, go, once a drug user, always a drug user. And I just thought, wow, our medical professionals think that? That's so sad. And, I've had experiences where people wouldn't treat me, psychiatrists were just like, they were like, I don't want another alcoholic drug addict. I'm like, I'm in recovery. They didn't care. There's still a prejudice. Other people see it as, overcoming it was the most incredible thing I've ever done. It's hard. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. You have to change everything. So, of course, I don't think it's a moral failing. I think that there's a huge biochemical component. And, there's Dr. Gabor Mate who thinks it's, a result of trauma. I think it's kind of different for different people. I think some people, start drinking and drink themselves into dependence and alcoholism. Other people come in with, PTSD or trauma. And other people, like, literally, it's the biology, like, the first time they pick up. Like, for me, like, with the amphetamines, it was like something clicked inside me and, like, a vortex opened up. And then I found out that, a bunch of people in my family had been addicted to amphetamines.
Yeah, I definitely think your genes and then your environment is the other half of it. It makes the perfect recipe for addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know enough about it. You know what I mean? We just don't know enough about it. But moral failing, no. People, people, if it was just a moral failing, people would stop when all the negative repercussions started happening.
Exactly.
They wouldn't just keep going. They wouldn't, it's not a choice. And I've had that experience where I'm like, I don't want to be doing this, and I'm still doing it. And I'm like, what's happening? This is weird, Why can't I control myself?
Yeah, so, I can relate to that. How long have you been in recovery now?
I had 5 years on January 2nd.
Okay. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
not
awesome.
Not my first rodeo. And that's something I talk about too. It's like, it's okay to, as long as you're alive, come back. You still have another chance. It's okay to slip. And I think that really it should be about inclusivity and, I don't believe, it's very rare that people sort of like come in and like, I went to my first meeting and I got sober, and I've been sober 19 years. Like, great. That's not my experience. My experience is like having years and then slipping and years and slipping for 20 years, going in and out. I think most people's experience is mostly a lot of slipping and relapse before something clicks. But I don't think it's ever too late to get it.
Nope. No.
And I think it's important not to get too caught up in the whole time thing. It's like time is, I'm so proud of my time, but like, if you lose it, come right back and own it. And just like, it's what, I think that sometimes that weird hierarchy and time bullying and, that whole thing, it's like if your social capital is based on, your standing in a 12-step program, like, I feel sorry for you. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't. Yep. Like, I never wanted to be queen of the drunks. So when I would relapse, I'd come right back. I was like, I don't care what these people think of me. I don't want to die. Like, I'm here. I'm different.
It's either that or death.
Yeah, everyone's experience is different. And it's like, I think we really need to honor that and be inclusive.
I like that. I like the diversity, too, of everyone's different stories of people who struggled longer. People need to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I know someone, and he has, oh my God, double digit sobriety now, but it took him like 6 years to put together 30 days. And it's like, that's some persistence.
Dedication.
Yeah, right? So we have to honor that everyone's experience is going to be different and their timeline is going to be different. It's not a competition,
Put your ego out of it.
Yeah. So.
What would you tell someone younger to prevent them from ever picking up drugs for the first time? Or even some words of advice?
I think that's such a complicated question because not everyone who picks up drugs becomes a drug addict. That's the truth. True. You know what I mean? That is true. It's like, I would just say that, it's a safer, if you have addiction in your family, you have a 50%, I think, chance of becoming addicted. And it robbed me of 20 years of my life. I made it into a book that's helping people, so I don't feel